What is up, GOAT World? It is me, your boy JDZ, and I'm back at you again with another GOAT format video. That's right, we're doing another top 10. And if you missed it, we already did the wind. That's already in the bag. We already did fire. And now we're up to what is, if you don't know me, if you know me, you know what it is. My favorite attribute, which is going to be water. We're going to do the top 10, the official top 10 water monsters of GOAT format. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop on in. But as we're jumping in to make this big splash, make sure you guys make a big splash on that like button and subscribe to this channel and flip that notification bell on. All right, let's get it cracking with the top 10 water monsters of GOAT format. Again, I've dug through all the tide pools and the streams and the rivers and the oceans, and I found what I believe are the top 10 water monsters. This came a little bit easier than the wind and also the fire. Again, shout out to everyone who saw those videos and gave me the feedback. You know, I appreciate that. Continue to keep that same energy and tell me what I got right and tell me what I got wrong. So here we go, starting this bad boy off with number 10. I have none other than the Yomi Ship. I'm gonna put this card in at number 10. Number 10, it's a lot of waters you got to go through, and I kind of dug through the pile. Number 10 was kind of hard to pick, but I went ahead and put the Yomi Ship. I believe this card is playable. I think it's got some merits, you know, that destroy this card, send the card to the graveyard kind of thing. It can't come up, especially in some aggressive decks. It being a 3-star, it is being water, searchable by Mother Grizzly. I think this card is pretty neat. You know, Yomi Ship, I played it heavily back in the day. This was one of my staples, you know, Yomi Ship, blowing up cards all over the place, and I thought that was pretty neat then, and I think it can be playable now. I do believe in my heart that there is some combination of water monsters that exist in GOAT format that can compile into a very competitive deck. I don't know what those ratios are or what that deck looks like, but I'm fairly certain a water deck can exist, and it might be able to do that by playing a card like the Yomi Ship coming in at the number 10 spot. All right, moving on to number 9. Number 9, I have none other than everyone's fan favorite. You know, this is a card that everyone loves. You see this card, it just brings me a smile every time I look at this card. I wish it was just a little bit better, but that card is gonna be none other than the Penguin Soldier coming in at the number 9 spot as a number 9 water monster in GOAT format. The card is good. It was like a staple of mine again back in the day as well. Coming in that starter deck, Joey starter deck that it had going on, doing its thing. But there's some things you can do where you can like bounce their stuff, bounce this back, send it, and kind of put in a soft lock kind of thing. It doesn't really come up that often, but it could theoretically come up, you know, but it doesn't come up that often. But just look at this artwork. This card looks amazing, and it's just doing its thing out there. Everyone loves the Penguin Soldier. I wish it was just slightly better so it could be more playable in this metagame that we currently find ourselves in right now. But still, you know, I'll rock Penguin Soldier. Flip Effect doing its absolute thing. Love to see it. All right, moving in at the number 8 spot. Of course, I had to add the recruiter of this attribute. Again, it's going to be the Mother Grizzly. This one is awesome too. I love me some Mother Grizzly. I have been seeing some players kind of slowly starting to tech Mother Grizzly in the ladder in those control decks to kind of speed run your Sinister Serpent ever so a little bit faster. You can go Mother Grizzly directly to Sinister Serpent, and then it can find its way into the graveyard and eventually back to your hand. You know, it's a recruiter. It's recruited. All of those magic ruler, spell ruler, recruiter monsters, I think they were dope when they came out. Mother Grizzly obviously is going to be a little bit underplayed because water monsters still aren't super meta, but if you can find a way to employ this card and get it going, maybe you can play Revival Jam, maybe you can play some Monarchs, a water based Monarch deck, I think could be pretty neat as well. So Mother Grizzly, shout out to you coming in at that number 8 spot. Moving on to number 7. Number 7, I had to add this one. I didn't put a lot of the other attribute spirit remove from play things in there because some of them are just kind of trash. You know, some of them are just unplayable. Like the fire one, I really didn't care for the fire one too much, and I really don't care for the wind one too much. He does look cool, but this one is actually quite good, and I think if you can incorporate this into the game as well with that effect to switch stuff from a defense to attack, from attack to defense, I think that is awesome as well. And they can't change it back, you know what I'm saying? So you can put spies into attack position, attack over them, you know, that next turn. You can put big monsters into defense position, and usually they have lower defenses. You can clear them out that way. I think this card is really cool. Special summon, you know, banish your Mother Grizzly, banish your Penguin Soldier, bring this thing to the field, then tribute that for Monarch. I think that could be pretty neat. I think Aqua Spirit is probably one of the better Spanish one spirit monsters, you know, not the best, but definitely one of the better ones. And I think this card is really dope. So I had to put it in at the number 7 spot. Super iconic too. I love looking at this card. It takes me back. All 4 of these cards so far are just an embodiment of my younger days playing these water decks and getting after it. So shout out to the Aqua Spirit, and also continuing that train, keeping that party train rocking. I'm going to move on to our number 6 monster. Our number 6 is going to be none other than Levia Dragon. Levia Dragon Daedalus coming on in here, and I had to throw that thing in there because this card gets after it too. I mean, this card was a menace when it first came out. I believe this one and its evolution form, the Neo Dragon, I've kind of looped both of those together, represented by this one, because that one had that really weird misprint that kind of allow for some degenerate activities to go on. But this one, if you don't know this card, it just says you can send one face-up Umi you control to the graveyard, destroy all other cards on the field. So it's like a built-in field nuke. You get this on the field, pop the Umi, blow up everything, and then this card can, you know, attack in and do it and get down like that. It's not the best, but sometimes, man, it could just absolutely get there. I've seen duelists using this with like a Reasoning Gate kind of deck, a Levia Dragon Reasoning Gate, or maybe some kind of water control deck, and they have this in there and they're just blowing it up, and it's pretty cool. It kind of works out. So I had to put Levia Dragon at the number 6 position just because this card is iconic as hell and it looks cool. I love this card, and it's dope. It's dope. So it's going in at the number 6 position. All right, now we're getting real. We're entering the top 5, and I did have to make some stretches here. I had to include my own personal bias, as I often do when I'm making these lists. And this number 5 card, I just had to put it number 5. I wish I got to put it a little bit higher. It's going to be none other than the Nightmare Penguin. The Nightmare Penguin. And I almost put this on here and just swag along. Man, this card looks so funny. This artwork is so great. It's got so much energy. It's got so much character. It is just nice to look at. It's a penguin with a suit on doing his thing. This card is awesome, man. And it actually has a pretty neat effect. You know, that 1800 defense, you can bulk your other water monsters with this effect. That does catch people off guard. Sometimes, you know, they'll come out with a monster and try to attack over tribe when it's next to this thing and it's boosted up to 1800, and sometimes they'll just lose a guy that way. Same thing with Abyss Soldier. You have this thing is boosting up to 2000, which I think is pretty cool. You get 2 of them together, and now you got some serious bulk on your side of the board. Also, that flip effect, you know, that flip, it's not one of those flip summon kind of deals. You can actually just flip it face up, and that effect will trigger. So you can kind of bounce another card on your opponent's side of the field. Not just a monster, any card you want is getting bounced back to their hand. So I think this card is quite dope. 1800 defense is quite bulky as far as the stat lines are concerned too. So I think this card is pretty neat, man. I like Nightmare Penguin. It doesn't get played at all just because obviously there's water in this metagame. If you're not light or you're not dark, you're pretty much left in the bulk bin. But you know, I think if there's a duelist who was brave enough to try to make a water deck, I think you can include Nightmare Penguin, and you can have some different layers you can add to your game. I think that'd be pretty nice. All right, so Nightmare Penguin's coming in at that number 5 spot off of sheer swag alone. Off of sheer swag alone. All right, moving on. Now we are in the top 4. We got the real deal Holyfield, and this one is heavily weighing on my heart as well. But we're going into the top 4 now, and this one I had to kind of put my bias to the side because I believe this card is definitely number 1, but I had to put it in at number 4, and that is going to be my boy Free Willy. The Abyss Soldier is coming in the number 4 spot. I had to put it there because the top 3 cards I believe are just better cards generally, but at the same time I think this card is phenomenal. I am addicted to Abyss Soldier. I try to use Abyss Soldier as much as I can because I think this card is so good. It's so good in like a lot of different decks too. You can play it in Monarchs, you can play it in Control, you can play it in Water, you can play it however you want to play it, because this card, everyone's playing Sinister Serpent, everyone's playing all these other cards. You can combine those 2 together and it's just harmony. That 1800 stat line and that 1300 defense go a really long way, and this card is good, man. It looks cool, it does something cool, you gotta play it. That's my own personal bias. If a card looks cool and it does something cool, I gotta figure out how to use it. That's just the nature of the beast. So Abyss Soldier gets after it. That bouncing card, there's so many different applications that you can use that for. I'm sure you heard me rant about Abyss Soldier in several other videos, so just check. It's just so many things that this card can do. I had to put it at number 4 because there's some real bangers coming up later on in the top 3. And speaking of that, going into the top 3, number 3, I had to put Mobius Mobius the Frost Monarch coming in at top 3. I almost had to put Abyss in the top 3 and put Mobius at number 4 because this card is actually falling down, in my opinion, in the metagame that we find ourselves. This card is good. When he's good, he's great. But when he's mid, he is just mega mid, like super duper duper mid. Like I haven't Mobius for 2 in so long. You know, you Mobius for 2 one time and it just takes over, and it's all you want to do is try to Mobius for 2. But you rarely ever get Mobius for 2 these days. Everything is so chainable. He just gets booked and ringed and torrentialed, and everything that can happen to a Mobius will happen to this guy. But still, at this point, he's still very staple like in the side deck when he comes in, and when he does hit the field, he's got an impact, usually coming in on those burn deck situations or some type of stall situation. Maybe because burn is just so down right now, Mobius is also kind of just falling down right now. He's not as good against warriors as he used to be, and he's definitely not as good against the other meta matchups as he once was, because people are just they figured this guy out so bad. But still, I had to put him in at number 3 because he's so playable, and when he does hit the field, that impact is so real. Mobius number 3 because the card it's heavily played. All right, shout out to Mobius, shout out to the Monarchs. All right, moving on to number 2. Number 2, we might have a little bit of controversy at the number 2 position because I put none other than the Tribe Infecting Virus is going to sit in that number 2 spot because the card is absolutely busted. This is one of those cards that maybe they shouldn't have printed. I think it's too good. I think Tribe is too crazy. It gets banned, and then it's so good that it gets banned, and then I believe Snipe Hunter, which is like a retrain of Tribe Infected Virus, it also gets banned, and it's a kind of a worse Tribe Infected Virus, and it gets banned as well. But Snipe Hunter can do spells and trap, but this thing is still ridiculous, man. Just calling any types and being able to just blow up the field multiple times. You can fix your graveyard too. It's just insane what this card can do. It's basically a staple. I think pretty much every deck that can support Tribe Infecting Virus will play Tribe Infecting Virus in this metagame. So that's why I had to go ahead and put it in at that number 2 position. Probably could have easily been number 1. Probably is number 1 in a lot of people's minds. But in my mind, my mind is just a little bit different. My mind is just a little bit different. I'm on a different wave when I think about these things. No pun intended. Different wave. Haha, water. But anyway, I think Tribe is dope, man. That 1600 stat line actually goes far too as a beater. Clearing out stuff with his attack prowess, but also that effect is just great. You have to play Tribe, or at least in the side deck, you got to think about using it. I was thinking about a way to cut this thing because I draw it so much in my opening hand, but still, it's too good to not play. Tribe Infected Virus, that's what I'm talking about, number 2. All right, but to no surprise, we're going to go ahead and go into number 1. And the number 1 overall water monster, in my opinion, the official number 1 water monster, is none other than the slippery Sinister Serpent. I had to put this thing at number 1 because this card is phenomenal. I don't think this is just the number 1 water monster. I think this card is definitely within the top 10 of all cards in GOAT format. I think this card is that damn good. I've seen this card, when I have it in my hand, it feels so great. When I'm able to use this card, it feels so great. This card can generate so much advantage throughout a game or throughout a match. It's just insane what this card can do with those discard traps, and with Tribe Infecting Virus, and with Metamorphosis, and with everything that you can ask for in a Yu-Gi-Oh card. Sinister Serpent is that, and people kind of don't think about it as the game is going on. You just kind of use it. But sometimes when you're down and you're just setting this thing and just walling out attack after attack after attack and just getting card after card after card to your hand, the card is just incredible. Like, really, I can't think of a more utility card to really help the form. And also it does require a little bit of finesse to use, so it's not like super unfair to the point where it's like, oh man, you got Sinister Serpent, this game is just broken. It's it's not on the level of like BLS and stuff in terms of like unfairness, or Duo and Pottery and all that stuff in terms of unfairness, because it does require, it is only a level 1 reptile, 300 attack. But at the same time, if you can utilize this card properly and your deck is built to support this card and you can get it to your hand soon enough, you can like really make some headway just on the back of Sinister Serpent. So I had to put this in at the number 1 spot. It's basically a staple in most decks. Maybe not the Warrior decks, and maybe not Burn decks and stuff, or maybe RG. It's a few decks that don't play it, but every serious contending meta decks, and except for Warriors, really are gonna find a way to play this. You don't see people cutting Sinister Serpent all willing. It's definitely in that staple category. As a water monster, it is for sure among the best, if not the very best. But here's my list. list. Here's what I have as my top 10 water monsters. Make sure, as always, you get into the comments and tell me exactly what I got right and exactly what I got wrong. But this list is I believe I nailed it on this one. And also, if you play water decks, let me see what you got. Send me some water decks, and I want to see what we can do about that. Maybe I can get a Levia to come on here. We can play some water. We can make something happen. You got to get into the comment section and let us know what you want to see. But as always, make sure you like and subscribe to this channel. You know what I'm saying? But that's all I got. Tell me what you think about it. As always, I'm JDZ. I play Goats. Until the next time, shout out to the real ones. Salute to the OGs. Peace.
This program was made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.